Apparently, we're playing a team that runs the football pretty well, and the coaches have talked a ton about stopping the run. Ravi, of course, gets very particular about QB run game, like most do. We're dicing through it. When you look at Penn State's run scheme, what do you see?
It's a lot. I mean, let's not even start at the actual run concepts. The formations Nebraska will be unorthodox. I think it's Andy Kolecki is the offensive
Yep.
coordinator. Kolecki, yeah, and he was here at Kansas for a while, so you have to watch his offense kind of take shape. I've watched a couple of his clinics too. He is all about creating confusion any way possible for a defense, whether it's with alignment, with the plays they run off of those alignments, the shifts and stunts. So just even starting there, and it's kind of similar for me this week. So we're playing kind of a single wing team. And they move the tackles all over. They line them up over. So I'm drawing all the running cards this week, DB, and I have a headache. I got a guy. I got a good friend on the team we're facing. I texted him. I was like, "Hey, bro, what's up with all this, man? I'm spending 10 minutes on each card, So it's gonna be it's similar probably for those
I got
GAs
a
too.
former head coach. He would say, he would tell us, he'd say, listen, we're going to see 28 formations. I was like, wait, that's called the
Right.
H theory. Whatever is in you when you get squeezed, young Action Jackson is who you
Yep.
are, and that is not a very nice person. That's
Nope.
true. That's 100% true. You're not a nice person. So are you one of those guys? Because I think it's like this with Penn State, where you say, okay, what do they end up being in? Is it 2x2? Is it 3x1? Is it condensed? Do you bottom line it, or do you count each shift and formational movement as something different?
I think you have to categorize it. I think if you look at it, and I'd look just back to Indiana and Michigan State as far as my look at them. There are some tells in some of those shifts, kind of what they want to get to. Why are they putting 4 man to one surface to start with, and right reducing it to three? Running types of counters and things like that. So I think there's some merit to digging deeper into those shifts and categorizing. But at the end of the day, you can't lose sleep on saying, hey, we didn't see every single shift from the 4-week breakdown, 4-game
Mhm.
breakdown. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we have to find the plays, maybe what's the big hitters, the ones they hit big on that they're gonna be looking to set up other plays off of. So I think you have to find the balance of making sure you cover maybe the rules of the shift. Hey, we're not worried about what the shift is called, but if there's 2 or 3 offensive linemen extended out of the formation, this is how we will always line up. And that's more so what you've done. You're gonna probably get to the base of base defenses in that situation, almost like playing a swinging gate. I remember playing Oregon. I mean, we played with Oregon that year at Memorial,
Mhm.
and we probably spend more time on that swinging gate and all the formation sets they do out of that and what they can do than probably a good amount of anything. Maybe it's close to our defensive scout game plan was. So very similar, but you have to find that right balance of let's not overload the guys with what's the name of this shift or what we're going to call it. But hey, this is our rules to this surface, this guy extended out, et cetera.
MRI, how about on the other side of the ball, speaking of formations and I guess kind of alignment in general? Because John Butler said something interesting this week about how he thinks Penn State's quarterback, Ethan Runkmeyer, can make the throws when he knows what the coverage is. That kind of indicates to me he wants to sow a little confusion into the young quarterback's
Right.
mind. If you're Nebraska, you know what Penn State's run game is. You know that Grunkmeyer has struggled in certain instances trying to throw the ball. What are you trying to show him to make sure he doesn't know what the coverage is?
you know, Working with that, 2-to-1 high shell, especially for Nebraska, they play a lot of cover one and cover two, so it kind of works hand in hand. We've seen them do some things that are disguised in one of those coverages, but then going to the other one and vice versa. So that would be the first thing. I think when you look at a young quarterback, you look at interceptions and sacks, right? He's had, I think, 9 sacks in the 4 games that he's started. He's been sacked 9 times. So obviously him holding on to the ball, maybe not seeing the coverage fully or getting the indicators on what the coverage might be, and then holding on the ball too long, but then also throwing the ball into some areas where defenders have a chance to make a play on it. So I think there's a little bit of both, right? You have to find a way to build pressure packages, rush packages that are going to get to them, but also ways you can still protect yourself on the back end, because Penn State does still have some pretty decent receivers that can make plays if you leave them in open space. And again, Grunkenmeyer has been able to, like Butler was saying in the clip you guys played before us, I believe, he's able to throw those intermediate passes, but more time those things are on time when he feels he looks comfortable that he knows the coverage and how everything's going to play out. So a mixture of rush packages are going to get to him. Penn State's O-line's given up quite a bit of sacks even with both quarterbacks playing, and then also on the back end trying to disguise things, going from that 1 to 2 high shell and doing it in sync and synchronization with the front seven, right? How we're rushing and how we're putting pieces at the line of scrimmage has to somewhat dictate how we're rolling and rotating on the back end. So, putting together a plan like that is going to be important for Nebraska's defense.
I'm watching the Buffalo Bills, the Rams, the Steelers of the world. These multi-tight end personnel packages, right? 12, 13. It's a headache for you.
Yeah.
When you watch any version of two-back run game. I'm not even talking about when you have two natural backs in the backfield. I'm talking about, H shifts or, Jack and Jill formation, stuff like that. What gives you the most headaches when you're trying to defend run game from a personnel standpoint?
I think when we're talking about two backs, I think when there's variation of what that offset back or that I would say maybe primary blocking back is, what he's doing. If you use him in a various techniques, like even just, ways of going back across. We've seen against Nebraska where, the tight end who's offline, off the ball, may go out and kick out the end, or he may bluff the end and go around them, right? Also using him on the front side, right? Using them for RPO screens, just things to the flat. I think that's what kind of gives you the most fits, is when that guy can fit in multiple gaps, right? He's not just a go across and kick the end out guy, or he's front side. He's going to be helping with the tackle to climb to the backer. I think that's when those two back-esque type formations give defenses problems, because we're getting our fit post snap, right? Instead of it being declared in single back, right? And we talked in nuances of this, right? But being in single back, the fit's already declared more times not, especially if it's offset. Right now, if we're going pistol, then there becomes again a
two-way go.
A two-way go, right? A two-way go, and now the defense has to be more reactive and less aggressive per se in their fits, depending on what they're doing up front and getting on to that. But yeah, I think that's gonna be important.
So when you're looking at, and it's not even so much the difference between Allen and the two backs, because Allen is he's clearly demonstrated to them he's gonna be the guy. What gives you the biggest pause when Nebraska has to stop the run, given how Penn State likes to run it, versus stopping the run, given how, let's say, Michigan? No, I won't even use SC because I think they're the most different. Let's go Michigan stopping the run versus Penn State stopping the run. What gives you the most fits about these backs?
I think they're both dynamic in the sense that they can. I can't say I don't think about. I think you go look at the result of the Michigan game. You say Marshall and obviously Haynes are both dynamic. Haynes, he was on a spree of long big touchdown runs coming into that game, and you kind of see it from these two guys a little bit too. So I would say there's the same level of concern, to be honest. I think looking at the splits from for Al in the past, I think 3 games. He faced Ohio State and Indiana, two really, really good defenses, and struggled there. But he did have a 145 yards against a pretty good work. We think is a pretty good Iowa defense as well. So he's very good. He's done it against multiple teams throughout the Big Ten, and obviously coming into the season, everyone thought Singleton was kind of the next guy, right? And Allen kind of takes over the reins as kind of the #1 back. So I think it's the same level of concern. I think, especially coming off of the previous week, and just obviously the quarterback design to run, but just again the formations they get into, having what we understand is a lighter defensive line. You have a team that's adding 6, 7 offensive linemen to these sets, but still spreading you out in weird ways with the backfield and the receivers. I'm just very interested to see how Butler Does Butler go with the plan that we're going to divide the back? We're going to take the back end and split it from the front end. How we're going to fit up front is going to be different with how we would maybe normally have our shell. And I think that's kind of what you have to at least have either in your back pocket or go into the game with that mindset that we can't allow how they split us to determine how we fit the front, how we fit the run.
Okay.
And it's going to be important with those two backs to keep those guys contained. So I think it's about this. So for me, going into and just seeing what we saw, just knowing we know about our defense, it's still I think it's the same level of concern.
Okay. So I want to stay with like the kind of the surface, front side, back side. If you wanted to attack Nebraska, no. If you know how Nebraska wants to fit in the run game using the back end, are they going to be more susceptible or vulnerable to outside zone, inside zone, pin, pull, gap? Like, what gives you pause when you obviously counter was
Right.
killing that's tough because then you get into the box spilling on the fly.
Mm.
What concept do you think would give this defense the most problems?
Anything that's gonna anything I say counter, but also I mean you can do inside zone split, but anything where you go back to talk about that offset back or tight end or fullback, however you want to categorize them. Anything where he's going back, to the backside and it's forcing you to make a decision. You're going to spill or you're going to force it, right? Or you're going to box it, right? So I think any type of concept that involves that decision being made for Nebraska, I think it's just as we've seen it, it's been something they've just struggled with. And I would say even still with the inside zone is making and maintaining or mid zone maintaining, gap integrity on the inside. I think that's another thing there. So it's kind of playing ping pong off each other, right? Because you're getting different blocking schemes in those concepts, right? But they're attacking primarily what B and C got, you know. So you're getting the same lanes and same rush pass by those backs where you're creating either you're creating an overrun to the front side and cutting the backside, or we're not getting the gap integrity to the front side, and now we're getting hit front sides.
If you're, man, maybe it depends on the age level or maybe it's even talent level. Sometimes we'll give spill calls on the fly. We don't love to. We try to have rules like the two back nub sets and stuff like declared. But you get the better teams, it gets a little more nuance. Do you like
Right.
clean declaration of we have to spill this, we have to box it, or should you be able to on the fly, given the type of block, decide on the fly?
I think it depends on what type of linebackers you have.
Okay.
If you have guys that are experienced enough to understand run flow along with the blocking flow and being able to fill both as they fit their gap, which is not I say that like it's just shuffle stack, rock back. Come on, let's like I'm not I say that as it's easy, but
It
that is
sounds
a
a little
hard
casual.
yeah, it did sound I have a nice little sweater vest. I was gonna say who it remind me of on right now, but I don't think he's on the list of people we can talk about. But nice little quarter zip sweater vest today. So yeah, I'm in a very casual mood. Got my
Oh, shoot.
French vanilla cappuccino. But yeah.
Seem more like a caramel macchiato guy, am I right?
Nah, not a macchiato. Nah, I gotta keep it fairly as simple as possible, right? Just like my run fits, right? I like my run fits to be simple. If we're gonna spill, let's spill it. If we're gonna box it, let's box it. But at the end of the day, if you have linebackers that know how to flow and fit, then you can have some nuance in it where like, hey, bro, just hit it. Like, you're on the field. Like, I don't care what you do, just hit it. I got you. We'll clean it up on the second and third level. But um, I prefer, especially being as a defensive guy, and maybe it's just the Bo Pelini in me of, hey, it better look like how it looked on paper, because maybe that's just been indoctrinated in me. But yeah, I'm very much I like things to be predictable in that sense. So then, and it's more, not, and I think sometimes, especially when you understand this DB in the coaching world, I think sometimes people take that as could be stubbornness, maybe a little bit, but I look at it as more if I can almost predict how it should fit, then I can find, okay, if we got hit here, okay, I know what the problem is. So it's not so much that I feel like, this is always the right way, or we may feel like what we want to do on the edge and how we spill and box it is the right way. It's just how
Yeah, if you're getting
You
hit D gap, or you're
conceptualize.
getting hit B gap, or you're getting
Right. I want to be able to. I want to be able to have a problem and solution. You know what I mean? I don't ever want players to come to the sideline and I'm looking as if I don't have something for them. Right. And I think a lot of coaches think that way. I think you would agree with that too.
yeah.
Again, I say I like it. I would like it as a coach, but when I play, it was never. I feel like I had a good understanding of flow and feel with the backs that I could play off of. I can play off those things, but everybody's not like that, and it takes some time and reps to get to that point. For myself,
And sometimes
it doesn't just click.
you like to be multiple, right? If then, but
Right. Yep.
but it does take some savvy too, because what happens is and you can speak to, maybe this isn't you, but you like to have options too, right? Like auto
Right.
checks are good, except you understand that they got a marker and dry erase board too. So do I
Right.
really want to auto? Do I
Right.
really, you know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
but I think for this particular team, like you have to play pullers. And you can even get into fronts, right? If I'm in a 4 down, we're going to play pullers like this. If I'm in a 5 down, we're going to play pullers like this. If I'm in
Yeah.
3 down, and I'm sure they do, it
Mhm.
just seems like there's the little bit of indecision is kind of what's costing them sometimes. And I always wonder, are they boxing this or are they spilling this? Because when you have box safeties, the angle should be better. When you
Yep.
if you're boxing it for insides, then their fit should be faster,
Yep.
right? So, like, they're
Yep.
just things I think about sequentially where I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to put it. Looking at those angles and how they're fitting, obviously in conjunction with what the run path is.
That's
Definitely.
why I always talk about
Yeah.
trust, and it's
Yeah.
hard, I think, sometimes for our listener when I say stopping the run is about trust. That's
Yep.
what I'm talking about.
Yep. Yep. I
You
agree.
may be able to explain it cleaner than
No,
I
I
am.
think no, I think that's perfect. I mean, there's some nuances, there's some deep dive details you can get to, but at the end of the day, I think it's about trust. Just like, no different in pass cut. We're playing split field to the left side. I don't care what you do on the right side. I gotta trust that my two guys that we're playing split field coverage on this side, hey, we understand how to pattern match. We understand how to distribute those routes. And I think in totality as a defense, run fits, it's about trust. It's about knowing and feeling that, for one, I am going to do my job and that someone else is going to fit it properly. That if I do my job, ball should go to me in certain situations, right? And it should be for everybody in that sense. But yeah, I agree. It's about trust.
It's like if you're supposed to be an A gap, own A gap. If you're supposed to be in
Right.
B gap, own B gap.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So or whatever it is, so then I can get to where I need to be.
Right. Agreed. Yep.
MRI, want to switch over to the offensive side of the ball for Nebraska. For what you've seen from Penn State's defense and what limited sample size we have of TJ Lateef, do you think we'll see a pretty similar game plan to what we saw against UCLA, or you think with the bye week they might be able to add some wrinkles to take advantage of some of the things that Penn State does?
I think it'll be a similar game plan. Penn State has defensively, obviously, you go get Knowles, who just comes off of a national championship year with Ohio State, and you expected the defense to look a certain way. Obviously, schematically, it's very, just as much as the offense coordinator is, a mad scientist in the way he puts together formations and alignments and things like that. Knowles is known for that as well with his back end rotation and doing some of the same three high stuff, but out of four-man front. So the defense hasn't looked as good as I think. Obviously, with Franklin now being at Virginia Tech, it ain't looked as good as they expected it. So I think the same game plan can work against this team. They've been hit and miss on stopping the run. Their sack numbers haven't been as high as obviously people expected. So I think um, the pass pro should hold up, right? It's in a similar fashion that it did with UCLA. So I think they should be fine offensively if they, keep the same game plan. Obviously, you get a game like you got out of Emmett. I mean, that helps out tremendously. But I think if Lateef can play as poised, I think a big thing that wasn't talking. I think maybe I heard a couple talking heads around Nebraska talk about it or speak on it. Just his composure, and I think
Yep.
Dana maybe spoke on it. His composure coming back home, he could have made that a whole scene,
Yep.
as far as like, pregame, hyping, just overly hyping himself up, and I think that's just a kudos, obviously to him. He has to live in the moment, but I think just the staff and preparing every single guy to be ready at a professional level to step in and do their job.
I
And
mean,
I
30,
think he did a
35
great
tickets,
job.
right? Like,
Yeah, I mean
that's a
that's
headache.
you've been there, DB, when
Yeah.
it's a hassle, that game where everybody in your family wants to come to, and you're coming back home. So, even now, I remember us filling. I mean, you're on the computer filling out. I mean, he's got 33 guys. That form to fill out the tickets ain't. It's a background report,
Yeah.
background check. You know what I mean? You filling it out for a minute. So, just to get that taken care of and still be able to handle himself the way he did, I really like his poise. I really like the way he played. He put the ball in the right spots. Would like to see, maybe it's a thing. He's a more of a pocket passer than maybe I want to say he is. I'd like to see a little bit more designed runs, just with him, just a little bit more.
Isn't that funny? Because going in, I told Benny Mack during the pregame show, I said, the funny thing is we keep acting like he's a running quarterback. Like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
spins it better
yeah.
than he runs it. He just has the ability
He just has the ability to do it.
to run it, right? Because there
Yeah.
were very, very few QB
Mhm.
run games. But now you
And
have chances to get other quarterbacks ready. So you
yeah,
may be a little bit more confident to
yeah,
unleash
and
QB run
two.
game.
We have a solid number two, but I don't think we want to get to number three. You get what I'm saying? So that could be
Yeah.
also in the mindset of the coordinator. Like, hey, we know we could probably use his legs a little more in some design stuff, but just understand where we are and the depth of our quarterback. Let's keep him in the pocket, and he's doing that very well. So hey, let's stick to that until we need to do something else.
MRI, as something that I've kind of struggled with this whole week. A little less football-y question for you, but I think there'll be some nuggets in there. Do you understand? There's been this perception around Nebraska the whole week that this is kind of maybe a better Penn State team than their record indicates. At some point, I'm keep arguing that you kind of are who your record says you are. Do you understand what seems to be some fear from the Nebraska fan base's part about who this Penn State team is?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they obviously, I mean, if we want to do, the nerdy, let's go stars for stars, according to, some sites, this is a more talented overall football team, right? I mean, it's just how they would see it, or based on their rankings, right? And I think Nebraska's at a point where we're playing the brand, more than we're playing the actual team that we're facing. And you just hope that doesn't creep into the players' mindset. But I don't think it will. I don't think it will, or has. But when when you go, you look at them, the past 5 games, right? They lost a 1 point game to Northwestern, 1 point game to Iowa. Ohio State. They lose 38-14. Indiana, they're going blow to blow with them. So I think even in their losses, and I think maybe it's more so how they played in Indiana, how emotional that game was, losing that and coming back and playing and beating. I mean, Michigan State's Michigan State. They're no world beater, but doing what they did against Michigan State and playing well, I think maybe more so nationally a perception that this team is kind of finding their footing a little bit. So I think that's kind of lending itself to Husker fans being a little bit maybe more anxious for this game than how we were looking at it. I remember people in Northwestern or like 2, 3 weeks ago, we're talking, oh yeah, we're going to beat Penn State, and it feels like that all the time. That's the up and down roller coaster that you get off the ride at the end of the year and just want to throw up, because it's just we do this all the time where it's 2, 3 weeks out or preseason. Yeah, we should beat this team. We should do this, and then it gets closer to the game, and we just get ourselves all wound up. And I think there's merit to the way Penn State's played over the past 2 weeks to give you some, okay, this is a much better team than I think they were in a position, both, I think, in morale and also in how they're playing in the previous weeks. So again, I understand it, but I'm not looking at this Penn State team any different than I saw them 2, 3 weeks ago. I think they played hard. They're going to play hard. Still figuring out their head coaching situation. And I think, as you've seen last week with that win, they're playing for their interim head coach. Obviously, he's been at Penn State for a very long time, so there's a lot of respect and admiration for him, and especially him sticking this out with the whole turmoil of losing their head coach. So there's some fire, there's some momentum there for them, but I don't think this should be anything that
Mm.
um, have Nebraska fans or even the players, program, whatever the case may be, you know, like I said, overly anxious or just pessimistic. Maybe that's the best way. Pessimistic going into this game. I think Nebraska has a great chance to go get a win on the road.
That is Michael Rose-Ivey, former Husker. MRI, appreciate the time as always. Great stuff. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, champ.
No problem, guys. Man, appreciate you guys. Go Big Red.
That is Michael Rose-Ivey. Good stuff there.
Be next,
always.
be next sweater.